There's something I've noticed when talking to folks like you and me, people who've spent a good chunk of life on their own, whether by choice or circumstance. The longer we stay single, the more we start to change in ways we might not even realize. And here's the thing, it's not always a bad thing. In fact, some of these changes can be downright surprising, even liberating. Maybe you've been single for years after a divorce or losing a partner. Or maybe you've always been independent, never feeling the need to tie the knot. Whatever your story, staying single for a long time shapes you in ways that are unique, beautiful, and sometimes unexpected. So today, let's talk about 5 surprising ways you change the longer you stay single, and why some of these changes might just be the best things that ever happened to you. Now, the first thing you might notice is this: you become incredibly self-reliant. And I don't just mean paying your own bills or fixing a leaky faucet, though those are impressive skills. I'm talking about a deeper kind of independence. When you've spent years making decisions on your own, you stop second-guessing yourself as much. You trust your instincts. You know what you like, what you don't, and you're not afraid to say it. Think about it. How many times have you heard someone say, "Oh, I'd love to travel, but my spouse doesn't like flying," or "I'd try that new hobby, but my partner wouldn't be interested"? When you're single, those limitations disappear. You book the trip. You sign up for the class. You make choices based on your happiness, not someone else's preferences. And that kind of freedom? It changes you. It makes you bolder, more confident in your own skin. But here's the flip side. Sometimes, that self-reliance can turn into a habit of doing everything alone, even when you don't have to. Have you ever caught yourself refusing help, even when it's offered? Maybe a friend says, "Let me carry that for you," and you brush them off without thinking. Or your kids offer to handle a repair, but you insist, No, I've got it." There's strength in independence, but there's also strength in letting people in. It's okay to accept help sometimes. It doesn't make you any less capable, it just makes you human. Now, the second big change? Your friendships deepen in ways you might not expect. When you don't have a partner as your default companion, your friends become your chosen family. You invest more in those relationships. You have long, meandering conversations over coffee. You show up for each other in big and small ways. And here's the beautiful part: these friendships often become more meaningful than they might have been if you were coupled up. You're not just Jim's wife or Mary's husband at social gatherings. You're you fully, completely. And that authenticity draws people to you. But I'll be honest, it's not all sunshine. Sometimes, staying single means watching your friends prioritize their marriages or grandkids, and that can leave you feeling a little left out. If that's ever happened to you, know this: it's not about you. People get busy. Lives change. But the friendships that matter will always find a way to stay strong. So, we've talked about becoming more self-reliant and deepening friendships. Now, let's move on to something even more interesting: how staying single reshapes the way you see yourself. Because trust me, that's where things get really surprising. One of the most fascinating changes that happens when you've been single for a long time is this: you stop defining yourself by relationships. Think about it. How often do we introduce people by their roles? This is my husband, John. This is my wife, Susan. But when you're single, especially later in life, you start to realize you're not just half of a pair. You're a whole person, all on your own. And that can be freeing. Maybe for the first time in decades, you're not someone's spouse, someone's caregiver, someone's other half. You're just you. You rediscover old passions, the books you loved before life got busy, the hobbies you set aside, the dreams you thought were too impractical. Suddenly, there's no one to negotiate with, no compromises to make. If you want to spend a whole Saturday painting, or gardening, or binge-watching old movies, you can. But, and this is important, that freedom can also feel disorienting at first. If you've spent years putting others first, it might take time to figure out what you really want. Ever stood in a grocery aisle, realizing you could buy whatever you like, no one else's preferences to consider, and felt oddly lost? That's normal. Reinventing yourself isn't always easy, but it's worth it. Now, here's another change you might not see coming. Your relationship with solitude shifts. For a lot of people, being alone feels scary at first. Silence feels heavy. An empty house echoes. But over time, something beautiful happens. You stop seeing solitude as loneliness and start seeing it as peace. You learn to enjoy your own company. Maybe you've already noticed this, those quiet mornings with your coffee, just you and the sunrise. Or the way you can spend an afternoon lost in a book, perfectly content. That's not loneliness. That's comfort. That's knowing you're good company for yourself. And that's a gift not everyone has. But let's be real, there are days when the quiet feels too loud. When you miss having someone to share small moments with. That's okay too. The key is balance. Call a friend. Join a club. Sit in a bustling cafe if you need to feel the energy of other people. Solitude is wonderful, but connection matters too. And that brings me to the next big change. You get really good at setting boundaries. When you're used to making your own decisions, you stop tolerating what doesn't serve you. That neighbor who always drops by unannounced? You gently but firmly tell them to call first. The family member who tries to guilt trip you into babysitting? You say no without apology. Here's the thing, a lot of us were raised to be people pleasers. To say yes when we mean no, but years of independence teach you that your time, your energy, and your peace of mind are precious. You stop worrying so much about what others think. And honestly, that's one of the most liberating changes of all. But, and there's always a but, this can sometimes come across as being too rigid. Ever had someone say, "You've gotten so set in your ways"? There's a kernel of truth there. When you're used to doing things your way, it's easy to forget that flexibility can be a good thing too. So yes, protect your peace, but leave a little room for spontaneity. Life's surprises can be wonderful. Now, we've covered some profound shifts, how you see yourself, how you handle solitude, how you set boundaries. But there's one more change that's perhaps the most surprising of all, and that's where we'll pick up next. Now, let's talk about the most surprising change of all, the one that sneaks up on you slowly, like sunlight filling a room. The longer you stay single, the more you realize happiness isn't something you find in another person, it's something you build within yourself. Think about it. When we're younger, so much of life feels like a search for the one, the person who'll complete us, who'll make everything make sense. But after years of being on your own, you start to understand something deeper. No one else can give you happiness. They can add to it, absolutely. They can walk beside you in it. But the real magic happens when you stop waiting for someone else to fill your cup and learn to fill it yourself. Maybe you felt this shift already. That moment you caught yourself laughing at something silly, all alone, and realized, I'm okay. More than okay. I'm happy. Or the quiet pride of looking around at a life you've built entirely on your own terms. That's not settling. That's strength. But here's the catch. This doesn't mean you have to stay single forever if you don't want to. It just means you're no longer afraid of being alone. And that changes everything. If you do meet someone new, you're not coming to them out of loneliness or need. You're choosing them from a place of wholeness. And that's how the healthiest relationships begin. Now, let's tie all this together. Over these last few minutes, we've talked about 5 surprising ways staying single changes you. You become fiercely self-reliant, but sometimes forget to ask for help. Your friendships deepen in unexpected ways. You stop defining yourself by relationships and start rediscovering you. You make peace with solitude, even learn to cherish it. And finally, you realize happiness was inside you all along. If any of this resonates with you, I'd love to hear your story in the comments. Have you noticed these changes in yourself? Or maybe you've discovered something entirely different on your solo journey. Share it below, because your wisdom might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. And if this video felt like a conversation you needed, don't forget to like and subscribe. We'll keep having these honest talks about life, love, and everything that comes after 60. Remember, whether you're single by choice, by circumstance, or just for this chapter of your life, you're not just passing time. You're living a story that's entirely your own. And that's something to celebrate. Here's to your happiness, exactly as you are.